Hey guys, Lytane here, and Christmas is finally over for another year. I hope that you had fantastic time during this holiday season, regardless of what you celebrate, if it's Kwanzaa, or Hanukkah, or Christmas, or nothing. I don't mind, so long as you spent it with some loved ones and had a good time over this period. Also, that you got some presents, because isn't that what this time is all about? Now, with these presents, if something does go wrong with them, because sometimes they are faulty, before you take it back to the store, just double check that you don't have gremlins. This time last year, I did a review on a movie that I consider to be a Christmas classic, even if a lot of people don't, called Die Hard. So I want to take a look at another movie that is so totally Christmas, even if other people don't think so, like my girlfriend. Gremlins came out in 1984, which actually marks the start of a friendship between Steven Spielberg and Christopher Columbus, where they made 3 movies together under Spielberg's studio. There was this movie, another one called Young Sherlock Holmes, which I'll have to have a look at in the future, and The Goonies, which I've already looked at, and you should totally check out that review. Anyway, self-plugs aside, Gremlins tells the story of Billy, a slightly nerdy kid that has a father that keeps trying to make the next big invention, though fails miserably at it. When looking for a Christmas present for his son, because this is totally a Christmas movie, Randy comes across a strange Chinese shop and discovers a new species called the Moguai. He simply has to have this new pet and buys it at once, but it comes with 3 very distinct rules. 1. No bright lights, it hurts them and sunlight could kill him. 2. Don't get them wet. And 3. Never feed them after midnight. Seems easy, right? Gizmo joins the family and is the cutest thing in the world. But guess what? Billy breaks all those rules pretty quickly. Gizmo gets wet, which causes him to reproduce and spout out some new gizmos that are quite naughty. They then trick Billy and get food after midnight, which causes them to mutate into evil gremlins, and now they are causing all sorts of mischief. Destruction and mayhem is the name of the game, and only 3 people can stop it. Billy, his girlfriend, who was kind of shoehorned into this film so I don't mention her, named Kate, and of course, Gizmo. This is one Christmas that no one will forget. The main cast for Gremlins aren't actually big Hollywood stars by any standard of the word. Take Zach Galligan, for example, who was in this movie. He's in Gremlins 2 and A Waxworks, which is another movie I used to watch as a kid, and he's been in quite a few things since, but he never rose to A-grade celebrity. He's always been a B-grade one. In the film, he plays Billy, and Billy's an alright character. He's a nerd, but you could definitely tell that this is Zach Galligan's first real acting job, because a lot of these scenes and a lot of the things that he's doing, it just doesn't come across quite right. A lot of the emotion just isn't there, or just is wrong, or just not enough of it, and some of the lines feel a little forced, so that's not too good. But the action scenes that he is in are all fairly well done, so he does live up to those parts. It's just that some of the acting it's questionable. Unlike Kate, who is played by Phoebe Cates, who was in another film that I used to watch a lot as a kid, Drop Dead Fred. Now, she did have a little bit more stardom when this movie came out, seeing as how she was in a few other films before this, and she did have a bit more of a bigger career directly after Gremlins, so arguably she was more famous of the two. But she just sort of disappeared in the mid-90s, and I'm not really sure why, and I didn't bother to look it up. Probably should have for this review. Anyways, Kate as a character, like I said in the intro, she's a little bit shoehorned into the film, just so Billy can have someone to play off with, play off against, and talk to, really. She's the only real main human character besides Billy, and she doesn't really do all that much. Spielberg is known for not being very good at directing and doing all that kind of stuff with the female leads of his movies, and it shows here as well, because she just is kind of boring, and she's just sort of around. She doesn't do a whole lot. She doesn't do anything spectacular. She is acted fairly competently, and she does have one of the most memorable scenes of the film, in my opinion, but yeah, she's just shoehorned in the film. I wish they gave her more screen time, more stuff to do, more influence on the plot. The last main character is Billy's dad, Randy Peltzer, played by Hoyt Axton, who I actually have no idea who this guy is, but apparently he is a very famous singer and TV show personality and movie star. before my time, long before my time. I don't think I've ever seen anything that he's in, and I listened to a couple of his more famous songs, and I had no idea what they were, so I honestly have no clue who this guy is, but he's famous, so I thought should probably mention him. His character is very deadpan and straightforward, but a lot of the humor that he does is the slapstick humor, where he's trying to invent these inventions that would save time and energy, and if they actually worked, are pretty good designs, you know, like a juicer in the 80s, I guess, before juicers were really a thing, and stuff like that, like a travel aid, which has shaving cream and a shaver, and toothbrush and toothpaste and all that kind of stuff, and that's a neat idea if it was working. But none of it does, and I like how whenever something fails, he's just like, oh, yep, that was sort of meant to do that, sorry, just keep going along with my sales pitch like nothing happened. So you can get a few chuckles out of him, but for the most part, he's just sort of there, and then he pops up every now and then in the film. The plot of this film is fairly slow in the first half and then quite fast in the second. This makes the film feel very uneven. In the first half we're introduced to Gizmo, and the movie makes damn sure that we love how cute he is, with many close-ups and fun moments with him. I simply love him! They did a great job with this character, and I want one of my own! Setting up the characters in the film is good, but it does drag on a little bit until the first exciting thing happens when Gizmo gets wet. This scene is pretty horrific and really intense. Gizmo is screaming in pain, and watching him bubble is quite gross, and I don't like watching him in pain even if he is a puppet. And worse yet is that Billy doesn't even seem to care. He doesn't say sorry or even really try and help out Gizmo, he just stares and watches. What an asshole! And then later on in the film he drops water on him on purpose even though he knows it causes him pain. What a big asshole! But these new Moguai aren't as cute as Gizmo, and they are pretty naughty. After all of this, the movie slows down a little bit again as they run some tests and they start building on the fact that these new ones aren't good. They eat after midnight, which is also a very gross section of the film, and I don't know why, it's just way more than it needs to be, and then they become cocoons. Still a little slow before the eggs hatch, but when they do, all hell breaks loose. From that point on, the movie really picks up with lots of action and destruction. There are some scenes which are slower to be sure, but honestly it's all crazier after these eggs hatch. This can be a little frustrating to watch because aside from Gizmo, the first half of the movie does drag on a little bit, and it doesn't have much payoff. You're just getting introduced to quite a few different characters, most of which only have a single scene in the second half of the film, and you just really want to see these gremlins, or more of Gizmo, really, one of the two. This also severely affects the tone of the film, where the first parts are Gizmo and how cute he is and how amazing it would be if I was to really own one. But anyway, then the other parts of this film are really over-the-top, horrific, and gross. Like I mentioned, them eating chicken after midnight, it's just weirdly gross, and the only reason why I can think of doing it like that is to show that these gremlins are, I guess, weird and evil and gross. And so because of this weird tonal shift between the good parts where the good guys are doing the things, and then the bad parts, it's really messed up. Because of these tonal shifts, it actually helped pioneer the PG-13 rating in America. Just a fun fact. So scenes like where you get to see Gizmo being all cute, racing on his car or watching television, yeah, that's G-rated. And then you see the other scenes when the gremlins come out and oh dear lord, that should be M-rated or something. That should be 15 plus, because some of these scenes are just wow. Like, when the gremlins first hatch, the mum gets attacked by 3 of them, and she has a knife and everything. And when the first one attacks, she's like fighting it off, and then she starts stabbing it to death, and you don't actually get to see the stabbing, it's off screen. But then when it cuts to a wider shot, you see the gremlin still sitting on the counter trying to pull out this knife that she left inside of him. It's like weirdly graphic and over the top. Then the next one attacks her, and then she throws it into a blender, and gone. Blood, guts everywhere. And the final one she throws into a microwave and cooks it until it literally explodes. It is so crazy and so over the top, and it's just the kind of thing that you would not see in a G or PG film either. It's so strange. Pretty much everything that the gremlins do after they hatch is cause for alarm, and I can see why they wanted to give it a higher rating, because they do some pretty nasty things. Not all of the things they do are, you know, graphic and over the top. Like, there is a scene where they all getting drunk in a bar, which is pretty cute and hilarious, and it adds to a lot of the characterization of these bad gremlins. Like, they're just getting drunk and smoking and playing darts, and some of them are falling over and dying, and then some of them are just causing mischief because they're gremlins. So they have some lighter parts with the gremlins as well, and then they just have these really, really dark parts. So, like I said, the tone of this film is all over the place. Now, as I'm sure you've noticed, the effects in this film are remarkable. With many of them being practical, they have a charm to them that you just can't get out of CGI. Take Gizmo, for example. He is so expressive and has such personality throughout the whole film that just about everyone I know falls in love with him. He is also really there, so all of the interactions he has with the other characters really happen, which I absolutely love. I know for a fact that if this movie was made today, it would all be CGI. And while that means the characters could do a lot more in terms of action and get into more sorts of mischief and situations, it would also look fake. I like CGI, don't get me wrong, but I miss the art of practical effects as well. Gizmo is also voiced by Howie Mandel, and he does a great job with it. Apparently not many of the lines were scripted either, so Howie would just hang around set and make up lines on the side of the stage to react to whatever was going on, and some of them were recorded and then added into the movie afterwards. My only complaint is that his voice is pretty soft and hard to hear at times, so a lot of the jokes and things that he says just sort of go unnoticed. The other great effects were used for the gremlins. They look very nasty, and there are a lot of unique ones as well, which adds personality to the mix. A lot of them were puppets, but some of them were animatronics, so they have more animation than the others, but most of them feel alive. Honestly, I would give the effects a 10 out of 10. As this is a film, guess what time it is? It's question time! This week's question time starts off with a question that a lot of people have after they watch this film, and it has to do with the rules. Rule number 3 says that the Moguai cannot be fed after midnight. But when can they be fed again? Because there's no rule of after that, just not after midnight. So can they be fed at 1 AM? Because that's still technically after midnight, but no, I guess not. Can they be fed at, say, 6 or 7 AM after the sun rises? Because that's considered a new day, but technically 6 AM is still after midnight. It's one of those questions that a lot of people ask and there's no actual answer for it. It's just one of those in-universe inconsistencies that it will never get explained, and it doesn't really matter. It's just, I want to know the answer to it. The next one is that these gremlins are only a few hours old in the movie, and yet they know all of these pop culture references. Like, one of them goes phone home when he rips out the telephone cables, and there's a few other ones throughout the film, but how do they have all of this knowledge, and how do they know how to do everything? One user online suggested that perhaps because Gizmo knew all of these things, and Gizmo was watching movies and TV and all that kind of stuff, that when these gremlins were born from him, they inherited a lot of his memories and a lot of the things that he knew. Which I guess makes sense, but there's no explanation in the film, so it's just one of those things. And I know it was done just because they wanted to make some humor, but still, it's a question. Just like the next one. Where do all these gremlins get their clothing? In the final acts of the film, like especially in the bar scene, they go through so many of the gremlins, and a lot of them have these cute little outfits on that actually fit them. It's not like they're wearing somebody's big old shirt and they're just trying to wrap it around themselves. No, they have little costumes, which absolutely makes no sense. Unless they raided maybe a toy store and they were getting all like the clothes off of Ken and Barbie dolls or something. I don't know. It adds to their, you know, characterization and their personalities, which I'm all for, but it doesn't make any sense. You just have to suspend your disbelief, I guess. One big question that I have actually has to do with both Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2, and it is, why is Gizmo the only good one? Now, the fact that there are rules for caring for a Moguai suggests that they are a species and that these rules are put in place so the entire species doesn't turn evil. Or perhaps they have, and Gizmo is the last one left. Or perhaps Gizmo is the mother of the species and all of its offspring are the evil ones. I don't know. If Gizmo was to eat after midnight, would he turn into a gremlin? I don't know. Why is he different? It's even brought up in the film that he is different, but they're never given any answer to it. So I have no idea why. Also, Gizmo knows that and fears these other Moguai which turn into gremlins. Like, throughout the film, he stays away from them. He also says stuff like, "Oh no," and he gives them dirty looks because he knows they're up to mischief. So things like that suggest to me that he's seen gremlins before, and he just doesn't know how to communicate with Billy to stop this from happening again, because he's an animal. So that's really sad. So because this has happened before, did those gremlins get stopped or what? I don't know. And it suggests something bigger and a bit more of a backstory to Gizmo, which is really interesting. The other thing is that in a real-world situation, Spielberg wanted all of the Moguai to turn evil. That included Gizmo. So maybe there is remnants of the original script where Gizmo was going to become Stripe, the main antagonist gremlin of the film. And like all of the Moguai eventually turn evil regardless of how good-natured they are. Another fan theory online suggests that all of the water that Gizmo gets hit with is dirty water. Dirty water produces dirty offspring. Gremlins. I don't know. It's as good as a theory as any. I don't know. But it always struck me as, why is Gizmo the only one? And will we ever meet new Moguai that are good? Because, Gizmo wants to get a girlfriend, or Gizmo just wants to have a friend. Stuff like that. Lastly, what is the death count in this film? Because the gremlins, as soon as they hatch, start going on pretty much a killing spree. They try to kill Billy's mum straight out the gate. They try and kill Billy. They also do kill the science professor dude. They also drive a car into a house and pretty much kill 2 other characters that were in the movie. And that's just the few that we saw. We're shown that these guys have been doing mischief all around town. And I want to know how many people actually died. I really like and think it's funny that after the movie ends, towards the end, they have this newscaster telling the news report and everything about what happened the night before, and it just plays it off as like lots of mischief happened and some weird destruction happened, and that pretty much everybody's fine, don't worry about it. But I know people died, and if this happened in real life, it would be a much bigger and crazier story. But anyway, that's it for my questions. The next section, I'm going to be talking about spoilers for the end of the film, so if you don't want any spoilers, click ahead to whatever this time says here, and if you do want to hear the spoilers, don't click anything. You can't actually click that, I forgot there's no annotations. Anyways, you have been warned. Going with the whole doesn't know the tone aspect of the movie, it does lead to some strange things in the ending of the film. Like the very famous speech that Kate gives towards the end. Out of pretty much nowhere, she tells Billy about how on Christmas Eve, her dad went missing and they couldn't find him. Then a few days later, when they lit a fire in the chimney, they could smell something off. Upon investigation, it turned out to be her dad, dressed as Santa. He was going to climb down the chimney and surprise her, but he slipped and broke his neck. This is absolutely dark and random to put in the film. It's delivered in such a serious way as well. It's very intense. What's more is that nothing through this movie has hinted or led up to this point. Also, nothing changes after this speech. Billy doesn't even say sorry or offer condolences, but that's not surprising when he heartlessly watches Gizmo get hurt. And the rest of the film, they just sort of ignore this, and it's such a strange part of the film. The executives wanted to cut this story out because they believed it was too dark, but the director really loved it and he really wanted to keep it in. Now, Steven Spielberg also didn't want to keep it in there either, but he also liked the director, so he was like, look, I'll respect your wishes and I'll fight to keep it in. And it just sums up the entire movie. It's a really tonally dark but off part of the film, that doesn't really make much sense, and you can't help but go, what? Which is kind of the feeling throughout the entire film. Then there is the movie theater that all the Gremlins go to and watch Disney's Snow White, which is a very odd choice of movie, and they even sing along to Hi Ho, which is pretty cute actually, before they get blown up. Then they cut into the building as it's burning down, just so you can see more of these Gremlins dying. But of course one escapes, Stripe, which is sort of the leader of the Gremlins, and he, Gizmo, and Billy fight it out. It's very entertaining. He puts up a good fight as well and holds his own before he is finally defeated by Bright Light! Then his death is also weirdly gruesome, with flesh melting off of him and him screaming. Once again, who is this aimed at? What is the audience for this? It's pretty gnarly, and as a kid, this used to scare me. Gremlins is, in my opinion, worth it. It has fantastic production value, some very amazing effects, a fun story, even if it does get quite dark at times, and Gizmo is really the heart and the soul of the film, and I just want to spend all of my time with this little critter because I love him. He's like my bae, he's my BFF, I want one so badly. There's a lot of great humor throughout the film, and there's a lot of great action scenes as well. Even if you're not into the overly gross parts of the film, they are still entertaining to watch. The pace of this film is a bit over the place, where the first half of the film is quite slow, and a lot of these scenes just sort of don't go anywhere, and they don't have much of a payoff at the second half of the film. And then the second half of the film is just way over the top in terms of zaniness and all that kind of stuff. So you just want to get to that half of the film as quickly as possible, because the first half is dull. Because of this, the tone as well is all over the place, and I have no idea who this movie is supposed to be aimed at, because there's overly cute parts which are definitely aimed more towards kids, and then there's overly gruesome parts which would be aimed more towards adults, and it doesn't even hit this nice middle ground of the two. So I have no idea who the target audience of this film is supposed to be. Maybe it's me, because I like the cute and I like the gruesome. Who knows? But that's all I can say about it. It's just way over the top, but it's still fun. Also, just as a quick thing that I just remembered, the music in this is pretty good. Gizmo's song is pretty cute, but the Gremlins song is fantastic. It's very catchy, it's very easy, and it sounds like the Gremlins are going nya 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 like they're making fun of you. And I think they even do sing it like that at one point in the film. And like I said, it's insanely catchy, and it's a great score for the Gremlins, and yeah, now I'm just singing it in my head. So yeah, this movie is worth it. Go and check it out. So guys, tell me what you thought about Gremlins. Did you like it? Did you not? Did it scare you as a kid like it did me? Because, yeah, some of these scenes, I watched it as a kid and I don't know why it's so scary. Also, do you think it's a Christmas film? I do. It is set at Christmas time. The entire plot takes place because Billy gets Gizmo as a Christmas present. The Gremlins even carol at one point in the film, so it's all to do with Christmas, even if the film was released in June or July, if I remember correctly, which would actually make it not a Christmas release, but it's so a Christmas movie, just because it isn't about Santa and have Tim Allen and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's still a Christmas movie, god damn it. And anyways, don't forget to psych and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next year. Whoa, 2018, here we come. Bye. And most of them have not really gone on to do anything since. Take Zach Galligan. I was right, I shouldn't doubt myself. I have asked over the years, and a few of them that many people have asked over the years, and it all starts with a burp. This queaks. It's not a queak.